Are the ones that survived. And we got Justin Joseph out here as well. Justin, I think it's interesting because you and I were both there that night. We were both out there about an hour after the shooting. You've seen how much has changed since then.
And Deb and Jeremy, that's one of the things in listening to your psychiatrist talk about. This isn't just how it affects the victims and their families. This entire community has really been affected. And that's, everyone knows someone who was there that night or knows someone who was injured. You were talking about Caleb Medley. One of the more poignant points of the trial that I saw, this was last week. We were going in one day, and as you know, when you go into court, they have to screen you through security. And so sort of all the victims' families, all of the media, the suspects' parents are all put into sort of a holding area. And as I was walking into the holding area, I saw Arlene Holmes, the defendant's mother, leaning down and whispering in Caleb Medley's ear. And of course, Caleb is now confined to a wheelchair. He's barely audible. He can barely talk. And she was whispering that she was very sorry for what happened to him. And so it's moments like those that you realize just the impact this has had on everyone, including the defendant's parents and including this entire community.
And you remember right afterwards, we saw all of those memorials that were across the street from the theater. We saw, hundreds of balloons, stuffed animals, the crosses. We saw a cross for each of the victims that were up there. And that really hit home because you could see how many people were impacted. People would come for days afterwards just to see that vigil. They would come right out there.
And even having been there that night, one of the other things that's interesting is we saw the people coming out of the theater with blood on them. You hear stories from the Aurora police officers who testified in court that they took victims who were badly injured in their police cars. A lot of these people to this day don't know who they were dealing with that night. We don't know who we saw coming out of the theater. A lot of these officers don't know who they were taking to the hospital and perhaps whose lives they saved. So it's really had an effect on everyone, and it's really changed this community.
And one of the things interesting too is when you talk to some of the survivors, it's the little things that trigger those memories. The smell of popcorn. I was talking to one survivor, and I apologize, it's been so many years now, that would just trigger all those emotions right there.